So, welcome to Starting 101. This is the first episode. I'm JP at JP Adams Online on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find me at jpadamsonline.com. So, what is this project all about, really? So I kind of wanted to take everything that I've been doing online. I mean, I had my website, I've been blogging for a while, had my Instagram account, wrote a book, and just have been working in tech for the last, God, 20 years in startups, really. And I figured that I wanted to take all that stuff and kind of like stop everything and start over from scratch. So what I'm going to be doing is over the next several, I don't know how long it's going to take actually, but over the next several couple of months, I'm going to be posting, I'm going to be going live and posting basically everything that I'm doing to start over from scratch. So if you kind of look at it, like I have my YouTube channel, which has not really been that active, my Instagram, which is a little bit more active, and I've kind of like had my book, and I have two SaaS products that are going. So I think that this is a struggle that it seems like a lot of people go through of when you're starting from scratch, where do you start with? So what I was going to do is taking all these things that I've kind of like halfway started, and I'm going to just take those, and instead of continuing forward with that, I'm going to basically say if those things didn't exist at all, this is how I would start. So that's the general idea of this. And so I figured I would kind of like break that down and show you exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to be documenting the journey. So if you kind of like want to follow along, then this is essentially like the best place to kind of like look at it. So what I'm going to be doing over the next 101 live streams is to go through from starting from nothing. So essentially no audience. I mean, I have a little bit of an audience here and an audience there, but I'm not counting like my Instagram, which is at about 800 people, but I'm just talking about looking at YouTube and going from this baseline that I'm at right now. How do I go from that with no audience, no specific thing to offer, and go from there to building to an audience of, say, 1,000 followers or fans or whatever you want to call them? And then, what am I doing in the process of that? And the kind of the hypothesis that's kind of guiding this is that I've looked at, different channels and different pathways and followed different people, and they all give you different approaches. But one of the things is that consistency is the key. And if you just show up consistently, then you'll start to be able to do that. So, without covering too much background on the process, I'm going to be walking through like what I'm doing and kind of like my thought process and the lessons as I'm going through this. So, pretty much the first step is to just like set your intention, right? So, my intention is to start from where I am starting today and build up to 1,000 followers that actually like care about what I have to say. Um, the essentially the theory behind this, the hypothesis behind this is that if I show up consistently live and share what I'm doing and my journey and everything, that in itself will lead to the audience building, and those people will know what I'm about and what I talk about, which is essentially tech, business, productivity. And from a business standpoint is me learning it. From a tech standpoint is me being very experienced with that. And from a productivity standpoint is how do you take an idea and make it happen depending on what your goal is. So that's really what it is. And essentially the platform that I'm going to be using, I'm going to be live streaming um, as often as I can. I would say at least once a week. It'll probably be more than once a week. It might even be daily, but at a minimum, I'll be live streaming once a week to share kind of like the steps and the phases that I'm going through as I start to like get clear on what I'm trying to do. So if you look at the current situation now is that I'm kind of scattered all over these platforms. And over the next several months, I'm going to be taking everything, consolidating them, and having a really clear systems, clear process, and clear flow of, you know what, this is where I reach out to people. This is where I um, share my stuff. This is where I go through with video. This is the way that I'm doing it. As you can see here, one decision that I've already made is that I'm going to be using live streaming, and it's going to be on YouTube and also going to my Facebook page. And so looking at some of those things and just like the early thought process, I think that the first step in any endeavor is kind of like starting, just getting started. Like, I know for a fact I'm not ready for this. I spent a while not knowing exactly how I was going to introduce myself or anything, but my intention is clear. My intention is that I'm going to take this from 0 to 1,000, and I'm going to try to do that over the next 101 live streams and show everything that I'm learning as I'm doing it. Um, my vision of success would be that using these live streams, people would discover me here, probably end up on my email list, and that'll be the main touch point where I communicate with them. And my mission is to help as many people as possible that have good ideas to make them happen. And that's not necessarily everybody. I'm focusing on essentially people that are in my boat. So working parents that are working in tech that have side business ideas that they're trying to make happen. So really the first step, episode one, step zero, is just setting your intent and getting clear on what you're trying to do. If you have a business idea that you've been trying to start, or you have an idea that you're sitting on and you want to take the same approach, I'll be really like following my process of, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And take that all the way through to kind of give you a quick preview. And this is not the final thing, but this is most likely the general sequence of what it's going to take, which is starting today, no audience. Then I'm going to pick an audience. Then I'm going to research what issues they're having, what topics they're interested in, what help they need, at least as it relates to the things that I know about. And that might be tech, and that it might be productivity. I don't know exactly what it's going to be yet. I'm going to do that research, and I'm going to share that as I go along. And then the next thing is picking a platform, which, that I've already done. But as I start to see how this is going, I'll start to take a look and see which platform is working best. Do I want to do both? How do I want to communicate on a daily basis versus when I'm actually going live with long form content like this? Next, I'm going to go through my process because I'm just starting. It's kind of a ready fire aim. So I'm starting, and then I'm going to kind of map out what is the process that I'm going to follow that's going to allow me to be more productive and more effective and more polished as I start to figure out how this thing is going. The next thing that I'll cover is, how am I doing with showing up? What are the struggles? What are the challenges? What are essentially the things that are working or not working with me actually like showing up and doing these lives, so that I can get to that first 101 lives that I'm planning to do. Then after that, I'll probably cover the tools that I'm using. I might cover it before. This is not exactly sequential, but this is kind of like showing the general thread of how it's going to go. So I'll cover the tools that I'm using. There's quite a bit of tools that I'm using right now. I have the mics, and cover alternatives to what can be used for those things. And then the next thing is I'll cover any metrics that I'm tracking, like how am I keeping track of it and seeing if I'm making progress or not. And then I'll kind of like revise that and share like what changes have I made, and then cover the process of going through and like applying those changes. Essentially, that's pretty much it. And I'm doing this with kind of like the mindset that taking everything that I've learned working with startups, which most of them have ended up being quite successful. One of the startups that I worked at is now like IBM Cloud. The other one got acquired for like $100 million. So I figured I have learned some things in working in these places and leading teams in these places that I should be able to take those things and apply them to starting something from scratch, putting some process around it, and then actually like growing it and making it happen. So it's completely an experiment, but I'm committing to doing the first 101 and basically really just giving away any idea, any strategy, any tactics that I'm seeing. I'm going to be giving it away for free for the next 101 um, streams that I go on here. So that's what starting 101 is essentially like, how do you start something? If you take the kind of like college course idea, right? This is starting 101. It's basically like the basics about starting something. And I'll be covering that and I'll be showing up here on and on. So if you're following me on my Facebook page, then if you're not following me on my Facebook page, I would say follow me so you see these when they come on. It'll probably be in the evenings, probably not this late, but because I think it's about 11:30 p.m. right now. But they probably won't be this late. But if not, I would say actually the place to follow me is on go to YouTube. Follow me. You probably have to search me, JP Adams Online. Subscribe and kind of like click the notification buttons, and it'll allow you to see when I go live with these or when new posts come up. But that's starting 101. It's an evolving journey. I'm showing every step of the process, and I'll be talking about kind of like what's happening with, my business as it is in place right now, and whatever challenges are happening there. But the main focus right now is that the first step is essentially building up to an audience of 1,000 followers, and then moving forward from there. And anything else that's happening in my business, the SaaS products or anything else that I'm doing, I'll just talk about it just to share the behind the scenes of what's happening. But that's pretty much it. I hope you'll follow along, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully tomorrow. Have a good day.